Hello, I'm Liv, a UK pharmacist, and I currently work as the Global Expert Marketing Manager for Wellness at Haleon. So I really focus on healthcare professional communications. And today, I'm going to be talking about, or perhaps asking, the simple question: is it time to think again about multivitamins? But before we go there, I think we need to go back to our purpose at Haleon, to deliver better everyday health with humanity, and what that means. So let's explore that for a second. What does humanity mean? It's got a few definitions. One, humankind, the totality of the human race. And two, it's also a style of how we show up. To do something with empathy, with compassion, is to do something with humanity. And to really tease those two things apart, I want to ask a question. What is humankind's greatest achievement versus what is humanity's greatest achievement? So let's start with the first one. What is humankind's greatest achievement? Some of you may say it was the defying of gravity, to fly like a bird, the creation of the aeroplane by the Wright brothers. Continuing that theme, some of you may say it was the Apollo 11 landing, first man on the moon. But here at Haleon, we're about trusted science, so I'm expecting some of you will say it was the advent of vaccines, the eradication of smallpox, or perhaps the discovery of penicillin and the subsequent savior of 500 million lives. Yeah, I think we're getting warmer. I could go with that, but I want us to think bigger. I believe the greatest achievement of humankind is the doubling of the human lifespan. 200 years ago, humans could expect to live to about 30 years old. I'll let that sink in for a minute. But here today, the data suggests we can live on average to about 73. It's pretty good. But I have some bad news. The last 9 years of our life are in poor health. It's what we call the Healthspan lifespan gap. Essentially, we're not living our best lives. 9 years. What is it? It's a statistic. It's a number on a slide. How about I ask it a bit differently? If I were to tell you from tomorrow, for the next 9 years of your life, you would be in poor or ill health, how would that make you feel? I know how I would feel. It would feel like a prison sentence. So going back to the question, what is humankind's greatest achievement versus what is humanity's greatest achievement? And it was a trick question because I believe humanity's greatest achievement hasn't happened yet. Humanity's greatest achievement will be eradicating that healthspan lifespan gap. So we live every second, every minute, every hour, every day, week, month, year of our lives in the best possible health. It's not about living longer, no. It's about living better for longer. Great. We agreed. So how do we do that? Well, let's wind it back to the discussion about antibiotics and vaccines. When we actually look at the mortality data and we remove the deaths from the 8 most contagious diseases, from infectious diseases, what we can see is, since the 1900s, we've not made much progress. That curve is pretty flat. So to move forward, we need to focus on prevention. And I'm not saying anything new, right? The World Health Organization have been saying this for years. We need to focus on prevention of chronic disease. But there's a slight problem. And here's one data point to show that. On average, in Europe, just 2.8% of budgets are spent on prevention programs. Think tanks estimate this should be as high as 6%, so more than double what we have today. The good news. We know by addressing certain modifiable risk factors, lifestyle changes, right, that we could prevent up to 80% of deaths from chronic diseases. Amazing. And again, we're not saying anything new. Poor diet, excess weight, smoking, physical inactivity, these are all things we need to combat, right? But there's 4 things. Where do we start? Well, how about diet? Poor diet is responsible for more deaths than any other risks globally, including tobacco. So recent data from The Lancet showed that diet was attributed to 11 million deaths, whereas smoking 6.1. And it's the same with disability-adjusted life years. That's a fancy way of saying years lost to disability. All right, so we know, let's focus on diet. In today's world, waistlines are increasing. Obesity levels are rising. But there's a bit of a paradox here, and it's something we call the double burden of malnutrition. Whilst we're getting bigger, we're not necessarily eating the right things, and actually, in some cases, can be malnourished. Simply said, the biggest problem is the nutritious food we don't eat. Here's some recent data from the Global Nutrition Report. This is data that's backed by the WHO and by various governments all around the world. And the facts are simple.
Globally, intake of fruit and vegetables is 50% below the recommended amount.
And this doesn't discriminate. This is in every region worldwide, whether it's developed or a lesser developed country. And what this is contributing to is micronutrient deficiency. So fruits and vegetables, they're super nutrient-dense foods, right? They contain things called essential micronutrients. By essential, these are things that your body can't create. So either you get them from your food or you don't. It's as simple as that. And as a result, it contributes to the fact that 2 billion people worldwide are micronutrient deficient. Now, if we were a random population, what we could say is, statistically speaking, 1/4 of us here today would be micronutrient deficient. And unfortunately, I have more bad news. So even small deficiencies or inadequacies can negatively impact health. So let me just explain that for a second. Micronutrient deficiencies are not an on-off situation. They're not a light switch. They're not a binary. They're a spectrum. You can sit anywhere on that spectrum. So deficiencies, yes, you might notice some symptoms, but if you're in the middle, something we call false wellness, you may not know. But your body is like a high-performance supercar. If you're not servicing it, if you're not giving it the things it needs, how can you expect it to run? How can you expect it to run well? You can't. And why does it matter, right? Micronutrients, they're small, tiny molecules. Why does it matter? Well, I'll tell you. They're small, but they are mighty. Micronutrients contribute to just about every biological process in our body, from the synthesis of DNA to the creation of life, to how we move, how we talk, how we hear, how we smell, how we see. Micronutrients are small, but they are mighty. So, with all that said, we know that we want to live better for longer. We know that nutrition is key to that, and we know that we're not getting what we need. And we're a food-first company. There's nothing that can be, there's nothing that can replace a balanced diet. But the facts are simple. We're not getting what we need. So I think we've earned the right to ask the question, is there a role for multivitamins? Can multivitamins help? And to answer this question well, I believe we need to answer it on 3 fronts. 1, do multivitamins do what they say on the tin? Do they fill nutritional gaps? 2, if we're talking about long-term health, are they safe for long-term use? And finally, and perhaps most importantly, do they work? Do they actually do anything? 1, what we already know. Do multivitamins fill nutritional gaps? Here we have some data. This is a US cohort, approximately 10 to 11,000 people, age 19 or over. And what we see with the grey bars here is the number of people not getting what they need, below the estimated average requirement, and that's with food alone, right? But when we introduce multivitamins, which is the teal bar, that number dramatically reduces, i.e. more people are getting what they need. If we take just one piece to look at, vitamin D, without multivitamins, approximately 90% of this population are not getting what they need. It's a crazy statistic. Second question, are multivitamins safe for long-term use? Centrum is the most clinically studied multivitamin in the world and has been studied in multiple independent randomized control trials, and in all of these has demonstrated a favorable safety profile, including the Physicians' Health Study, which is the largest study of multivitamins to date, in approximately a group of 14,000 people over a period of 11 years. Multivitamins are safe for long-term use. And finally, what we're starting to see. In these trials, Centrum also showed meaningful health benefits in multiple different areas of health, including 2 recent studies in brain health. When we think about long-term health, if we don't have our brain health, what do we have? Our brains are what make us who they are. They allow us to think, learn, and remember. They're our organ of intelligence, our keeper of memories. Our brains are us. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague Ahmed to take us through the latest Cosmos data in memory and brain health.
Thanks, Liv. Hello, everybody. I am Ahmed Hamdi. I am Medical Affairs Director for Middle East Africa. I have the pleasure here today to discuss and share with you the latest data on multivitamins and brain health. First, before going to the next slide, there is an important question we want to raise. Does multivitamins really help in brain health? Let us see. Stepping one step back, talking about cognition. Mild change in cognition can be part of normal aging process. Both episodic memory and executive functions are considered cognitive abilities that are critical for everyday life, and declines of these domains are seen in normal aging and also seen associated with some diseases like Alzheimer and dementia. Episodic memory. Episodic memory is the ability to encode, store, and recollect recent or past event or experience. Example, remember where you parked your car this morning, or what you did last year for your birthday. Executive function is complex, multi-component construct that includes a range of different processes that are necessary to perform everyday function. This process includes planning, organization, coordination, and evaluation of many non-routine activity. Okay, going to the Cosmos study. Cosmos study is a study which discusses the effect of cocoa extract and multivitamin on cognitive function. These 2 studies, which we will be discussing now, were ancillary study of large-scale Cosmos randomized control trial, which assessed if cocoa flavonoid supplement or multivitamin supplement, which was Centrum Silver, the USA formula, reduced the risk of cancer and major cardiovascular events among older adults. These 2 studies, if you have look deep, you can find that the Cosmos Mine is the first large-scale, long-term randomized clinical trial to assess the effect of multivitamin and mineral supplement, Centrum Silver, and cocoa extract and global cognition in older women and men. There was 2,262 participants in this study. The other study is the Cosmos Web. It's large-scale, long-term randomized control trial to examine the effect of daily multivitamin Centrum Silver supplement in memory in older adults. Okay. Looking back on this study in depth, as you can see in this diagram, In Cosmos Mind study, as you see, the objective was to assess the effect of multivitamin, Centrum Silver, and cocoa extract on three main parameters: global cognition, episodic memory, and executive function. This study was conducted in patients above 65 years and for 3 years. Looking to the other study, Cosmos Web study, the objective was to examine the effect of Centrum Silver on episodic memory for 3 years in patients above 60 years. If you look with me in this graph, which assess the three main parameters, global cognition, episodic memory, and executive function, daily use of multivitamin Centrum Silver resulted in significant improvement in the three parameters, the global cognition, episodic memory, and executive function compared to placebo, while cocoa extract didn't have any significant result. What does this mean for your patient? This means that Centrum Silver may help to slow cognitive aging by 60%. Going to the other studies, the Cosmos Web study, this result was assessed after 1, 2, and 3 years. Daily use of multivitamin Centrum Silver significantly improved memory compared to placebo. What does this mean? This means that daily use of Centrum Silver was estimated to improve episodic memory performance by 3.1 years of age-related change.
So it's clear. It's time to think again about multivitamins. Optimizing nutritional intake is critical to closing the healthspan-lifespan gap. Multivitamins can help. They close nutritional gaps, they're safe for long-term use, and they show health benefits. Centrum Silver significantly improved memory in 2 randomized controlled trials in over 4,000 people, 4,000 older adults, in a population where we typically see decline. It's time to think again.